Today we are joined by the nurse who writes a lot, expert copywriter. Today he's going to help you take your email list from zero to hero. Rick Martinez, welcome to the show.
Mark, it's a pleasure being here, and I love hearing that. I haven't gotten used to it, that nurse who writes a lot, but it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
The pleasure is all mine, and I really want to get right into it. But before we get started, Rick, I got to know, how did you get into copywriting and converting people from zero to hero? How'd you get them into buying and purchasing and servicing with you and your line of work?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's that age old one, what was the first step? How did you get started? What was the click moment? I've always loved writing. It's something I've gravitated to, meaning words, reading a lot. I always was that kid with a paperback in my back pocket. So I read a lot and I understood and really grasped. I was moved by words. And I realized that if I could be moved by words, then others could be. And I'll just skip ahead. Been married 20 years. The reason why that's important is because when I was dating, my wife said, you know what really, really moved me was your emails you wrote to me. I
Hmm.
love them. And I know that sounds weird, emails, not a letter, but I wrote them. And
You wrote emails to your wife,
I did, my girlfriend then. And yeah,
girlfriend.
yep. And I realized there was a genuine power to words. And so long story short, through a career in nursing and as an entrepreneur and starting and exiting companies is um, one of the things I love doing as a founder is writing my own newsletters to our employees and staff. And I thought, man, I really like this part. And after we sold the business, I was looking for the next thing to do. And I thought, this is the time to write. And then, of course, this pandemic thing hit, and there was no time like the present. So, Mark, about half a year ago, I took a deep dive into copywriting with this specific area of expertise in email copywriting. And how I got started was I just contacted a friend who did not have an email list, who was a business owner. And I asked him, why don't you have one? Can I interest you in starting a list? And I will handle the nuts and bolts of it. Boom, go. There I was, my first client about 6 months ago, literally 6 months ago. And now it's been just a steamroll kind of thing because we're stuck at home.
Right.
I'll let you take the ball now, but that's how I got started. I
Right.
asked
Well,
somebody.
I love that for a couple reasons. You said a couple things. A, everyone needs to have an email list. It's super, super important. Everything on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok is rented land. You're on rented land, so you own your email list, which I think is really important. And the second thing, you were doing different things and you found something that you loved, something that you enjoyed, something that you were good at, and you started leaning into it, which I think is a recipe for success. A need plus something that you love and are good at. So let's talk a little bit about this. You pick up this client and you're going to say, hey, let's call him Jim in this case. Jim, I'm going to help you build your email list. You got nothing. What was the first thing that you did for Jim? How did you start driving leads to his email list?
Sure. The first thing is obviously understanding that business, understanding the pain points of their ideal client or their customer. They'll call it the avatar. So, and I think that's an important kind of gap there. So, getting started is easy. Making the connection is the critical part. They're a cybersecurity firm. That's not the normal. They don't sell dog food. They don't sell T-shirts over the internet. They're a cybersecurity firm. So, um, I had to understand the pain points of their client first. Second was then simple. This is related, kind of not related, just created some very simple content pieces for them on their social channels, LinkedIn, some Facebook stuff, grab interest, grab eyeballs. And when people were saying, I didn't think of it in that way. Or maybe this is somebody I need to have in my back pocket. There was
And on
always a link.
these, before we go forward here, Rick, on these social channels, are you using mainly text, video, photos? How are you grabbing those eyeballs and driving them? Because I assume you're driving them to Jim's website in this case, right?
Yep, all the above. Sometimes it
Yep.
would be a link, simply a link on the first comment on Facebook on their existing business page.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it could be driven to the website, and then their web experts would have that pixelated. That's the part that's not my lane. Or they would just join, click the link right on the post, and sign up for the email, for the newsletters that we were beginning to write for them. And so it was kind of everything led to the next thing. It was like a stair step, a ladder, if you will.
Yep.
It's beyond just writing the email. It's making sure that it's the right person, right time for the right reason, and that's kind of honestly the way I look at things. Mark, is I like to tell people, and I operate on the same mantra: is I operate as if I have my last $300 in my wallet, and I tell people, hold your wallet. Everything I do will be with the mindset of I have my last $300. So no expensive SEO, no big ad spends. Just let's get grassroots, very granular, understand the pain that they're going through, and let me solve it to them. Let me help you solve it with words.
So this is interesting. I would assume going into and working with this gentleman with cybersecurity, you might not necessarily understand all the pain points of your audience. What are some ways that we can actually figure out and determine what the pain points are? I know for me, just to kind of give this a little bit of context, when I first started building my groups and my projects, I would think that my clients or my psychographics pain points are one thing, but as you get into it, you learn that it's something else. How can we actually learn what those pain points are so that we can solve those problems?
That's another great question, and it's something I really, really had to understand was where those people congregate. And I know that's a question a lot of marketers ask. Call it the avatar discovery. Um, I go to places, and this is what anybody can do. Go to Reddit, where there's existing forums where people are talking about cybersecurity. What's going on, and or let's take an even simpler example that people can wrap their heads around: healthcare, because they also run a healthcare division where they work with doctors and nurses and clients, basically staffing. So go to where those people are congregating online when they're typing in these forums on Reddit, or those you can just Google what are upset nurses talking about today, and hit Google, and your first 3 to 5 little whatever that pops up are usually going to be some sort of forums, and these are unfiltered. You literally get to hear what's bugging administrators, or what's really sticking in nurse. And I'm a nurse, so I'm saying that I didn't mention that for clarity. I am an RN. So you get to hear literally and read what's really going through their minds, what's bugging them. And that's where the first pain points emerge. But more than that, Mark, is you can grab the copy, the words they're actually using. And
Mm.
that's the key thing, is actually use their words, because it's honestly, it makes it more believable. Somebody with no background in cybersecurity like me, or in healthcare like another copywriter, can actually gravitate to those words and see, what are the nurses saying? What are the healthcare administrators actually saying? What are they typing themselves? Those are bullet points. Those are fascinations. Those are the things that make great subject lines that people stop and they go, how does he know that? How does she
This
know?
rem- this reminds me of a conversation I had a few months ago with Jeffrey Shaw. He's the author of Lingo, and it's the importance of finding out the language, the lingo that your psychographic uses. This is exactly what you're mirroring, Rick. I think that's really, really smart. So Reddit, Google, Twitter, maybe in Facebook. I found Facebook groups to be a good place too, right? You go into a very large Facebook group and say, "Hey, what's bothering you today, nurses?" Right, and that could be a way of drumming up that language too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of places, and a lot of it, Mark, will just depend on what resonates. I love reading those raw forums where nurses just vent, where doctors can actually post things, and where they're not filtered by, I don't know, hospital administrator stuff. Or,
Right.
and yeah, I know I'm beating the whole healthcare thing, but that's one of my really, really core specialties.
Yeah, and it makes sense. And that's another important thing, niching down, figuring out what your superpower is, what you enjoy, and just getting niched down. I think that's a really powerful way of doing that. Hey, Mark here. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Let YouTube know you're enjoying this video. Let me know you're enjoying this video. All right, let's get back into this episode. So let's assume here that we've done the research, we've been running polls, we've been communicating, we've been reading. We have a pretty good idea of the pain points and the language that our ideal client is using. What do we do next? We got that. What do we do next to actually start building our traffic, building our funnel? What do we do, Rick?
Sure. So there's one can take it to a lot of extremes. One can actually bring on the whole funnel builders, and I'm talking literally like products like ClickFunnels, and I use ClickFunnels. Hiring a YouTube expert who understands, how to write VSLs, video sales letters, and actually driving traffic, paid traffic. Those are all options. Again, I operate, and I have my wallet literally right there just by chance, as if I have my last few $100. I want to be able to prove to a client that let's get some eyeballs, organic eyeballs. Let's throw in keywords or hashtags that don't cost anything. Let's tap into existing audiences, like you mentioned, Facebook, where there's actually people already there who are seeking something. And let's build some credibility first. So that's literally where I begin. I will, like you said, post in Facebook groups because of the lingo. I speak the lingo, I understand it. I'll post on Twitter on my own accounts. I use my own audience, and we've built my own personal audience for years to begin to drive traffic. So,
well, within the context of like email list building, what we do in that case, right? Because so again, let's say you've gotten some attention from these people, the language. So, okay, let's back it up. The language, you're posting in the right place so people can read and they get familiar, but you got to have some sort of call to action, right? To get them to your website or to your email list. How are you executing on that?
Okay, so let me skip another beat here. So I'll talk about another client. I won't give the name, but this is actually a women's hair loss supplement product. And we literally launched a lead magnet, brand new one last night. So this just happened. So what we did is the founder is the face. She goes on TikTok Live. She's very good on camera. She'll talk about some things. She'll get tons of eyeballs. And what she didn't have was a place to collect data. She didn't have an email capture system like Aweber or something like that. So what she did is I would write some keywords. I said, here's what I found that's bugging women. She's going through the process herself. She is the client. And she actually went through alopecia for a female. And I said, use this sentence when you're talking to them. Talk about this thing, this pain point I just read. She did. And last night, so what we did then, we created a simple link, capture box, did it all through Aweber, some build basic technology. And this morning we woke up and there was just a slew of new subscribers. Wow. Because they heard it on TikTok. They said, that sounds like what I'm experiencing. Maybe I should explore. They went to the link, put their email address in, and that's all we asked for, just email address, no names. And today when I woke up and I'm 7 hours different from her, I was like, wow, because I get notified. Holy crap. There was a whole bunch of new, a brand new little micro list that we set up just last night. Simple, super simple. TikTok's free.
Love that. And again, this comes back to that original point where you need to speak the language. You need to have those keywords. You need to know it. And so you speak the language, you find them on whatever your native platform is, whether it's your podcast, your YouTube channel, your TikTok channel. They go back and they find a lead magnet, right? A lead magnet meaning a PDF or a free guide, free course that speaks to solving that pain point, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, cool. So they say, yes, I want to know how to solve this alopecia problem. I'm going to click the link. I'm going to get the guide. Cool. Well, what happens next? Because now that you've got them in your list, that's the first victory. But how do we keep them there? What do we do next to make sure that they're actually engaged and enjoying that content?
Great questions. And, we'll just go real basics. I'm a believer in fundamentals. Once you master the fundamentals, then you can create anything. So we put together the fundamentals, and all that means, Mark, is a welcome series, period. That's it. Mm-hmm. They when they opt in, when they give us their email address and they sign up, they then get the usual, click to OK subscription. And then they get emailed automatically through our email system, which is about $100 a month, their first email. And it says, here's the thing you asked for. And it's the download. And then a day later, they'll get email number 1. And usually there's a call to action in there. Hey, by the way, I know you expressed interest. Maybe you are experiencing hair loss. Here's a link for a discount if you want this now. If they're in pain, they want it solved now. I don't believe in these nurturing sequences. I don't. If my shoulder hurts, don't have me come to visit you 7 times before you give me pain pills. Give me the pain pill today and let me decide if I want to take it. So email number 1 is, here's your thing. Email number 2 is, here we are. I'm so glad you're here. Here's who I am. Here's what I experienced. If you want to take the ride with me, here's a coupon. Email number two is it's just basically builds upon itself, and it's very short. 4 emails. Some people
Yeah.
believe in super long sequences. I believe in tapping into what's going on today and having the emails as fresh as can be, and that's it.
That's
Literally.
one of the challenges too, Rick, right? Because when we're trying to build out an infrastructure, we're trying to build these systems, we're trying to build these automations. And so this is something I actually think about a lot, Rick. How long should my email sequence be? I've spoken to some people who say, once you sign up, you get emails for 2 years every week, right? But the problem with that is the market might change. Maybe we run through a coronavirus thing and your messaging needs to evolve as well, right? Yeah, that's a big challenge. That's a big challenge because it's hard. Not every business owner has time to go out and type an email on a weekly or biweekly basis. So let's talk about this. Let's get a little bit granular. How often should we be emailing our email list? Because we don't want to blow them up so that they actually unsubscribe, but we want to get there enough so that they're actually engaged and involved. How often should we be emailing our list?
That's another contentious point around email marketing. It really is. I'm a believer of daily. That's my
Mm,
personal belief is daily, and a lot of it will depend on the client. So I always recommend. I say, look, the more you email, the more you make. Period. The more you email, the more you will make. And we're in for-profit businesses, and we're here to do the greater good to solve a problem. And let me put it a different way that maybe anybody can get it. Imagine going to get your oil changed, and one day you drive in and they say, "Today we're not changing oil. We just want you to watch this video on where we source our oil from and how." That's to me, Mark. That's a bunch of crap. If I want
uh,
something today, give it to me today. And if I'm going to get my oil changed, I have a problem needing solved. If they're joining our list, they're doing it for a reason. It's not just because of our pretty faces. They're doing it because my hair's falling out. And
mm,
maybe I get paid next Friday, or I don't know if it's that bad today, but tomorrow, damn, there's that message again. And geez, I woke up and there was more hair on my brush.
mm.
So when somebody truly is in pain, and now I'm speaking as a licensed healthcare provider, solve it today. That's why I believe in daily emails, not spammy. If you're in pain and this is something you need or you want because the pain is just driving you nuts, you want to hear from that person. You want to know what's going on. And yeah, maybe you want that coupon. So I believe in daily. Not everybody else does,
And I
though.
think so. I want to dive into this a little bit deeper because if you're going to be sending an email, I think you want to keep it valuable, right? Value driven. Of course, we're talking to therickmartinez.com. Find out more about how you can absolutely explode your email list and deliver this value because we're just listen, in 30 minutes, we can only touch the tip of the iceberg. Therickmartinez.com. He's going to go deeper and wider with you here. So let's talk a little bit more about this daily email concept. I find this actually very interesting. As someone who's producing a lot of content on YouTube, on podcasts, I've kind of thought like, should I be sending out these emails more often? Maybe not. Maybe it's worth you know, how long are these daily emails that you're sending out? Are we talking like books? Are we talking like short snippets? What do you think, Rick?
So I literally put this in my website. I'm a fan of brevity. I'm short and sweet. Literally, I'm only about 5'7", and people love me. So no, but seriously, no, we're busy. We're all busy people, and I want to make sure that when somebody gets something from me personally or one of the clients that I serve, that it's to the point. It has something of value to them, and then it will solve the problem. There's a call to action. So to answer your question, short. Like it would take less than 2 minutes to read, maybe scrolling on your phone.
Sure. Almost like a long Twitter post, right? Or maybe like a LinkedIn type post.
Yep.
Do you ever repurpose your post, right? Like say, hey, I'm going to write it in an email. I'm also going to post it on LinkedIn with a picture or something like that. Have you ever tried that? Or is that a problem with context?
So I do. No, I actually do repurpose
Love
it,
it.
and I will reword some stuff. So as a great example, I publish on Medium, which is a free blogging platform. Have a good sizable following there. I'll write a long form post, 1,000-word blog post, and then from that I'll take it and chunk it down into an email. From that I'll chunk it down and pull out tweets, and from that I'll maybe grab a quote, and I post every single day in my Instagram profile. And there's usually some sort of tie into everything, and it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it has a flair of Gary V. But to answer your question, I do repurpose stuff across multiple. It makes it easy. One
I
piece of
think you
content.
have to. I think you
Yeah.
have to. What about batching? Is this something that you sit down every morning with your cup of coffee and you're like, okay, I'm going to write out a Medium post and I'm going to chop it up? Or is this like every Monday, I'm going to sit down and do a bunch of writing and then I'm going to create a week's worth of emails? Do you have any thoughts on that, Rick?
Those are good questions. So I create on the fly. So it's usually the first way. Like I have
Love
a
it.
cup of coffee and something hits my inbox and I'm like, huh, I'm going to check that out. Um, whatever, maybe it's a top news story that is
Mhm.
really great content that has a tie into marketing or to sales or something or just humanity. Um, I think those are as fresh as can be. If they're on my mind, they're likely on a lot of people's minds. So let's tie it into something. So I'm a as it comes kind of person.
Okay, cool. I like that. And when you keep it contextual, if something is news, there's a name. If you're speaking the language of your audience, which is probably going back to the beginning, step one of actually having a good email list is speaking the right language. You're going to get better. People that are on your list are going to want to listen. They're going to want to read. But let's talk a little bit more about how you actually get people to open up your emails, because that's kind of the almighty thing that everyone's like, email marketing doesn't work because nobody actually reads it anyway. How can we get people to actually see the email notification pop up on their phone, click the button to actually get in and get live? What are some tips for our subject lines?
That's another that's lead magnet material right there. I think everybody has their own take on download my thing to grab to understand the best subject lines ever. um, it's got to be relevant to your audience. Obviously, a subject line that works for NFL fans is not going to be the same type of grab them by the throat that's going to work for a women's lingerie line. It's not.
Mm.
That being said, swiping, which is not a bad thing, but literally swiping copy and using it without altering it to fit your audience is a bad thing. Where I'm going with that is it's got to be something that grabs them, and something that says, whoa, hold on, because the people are scrolling through their phones like you did. Literally, this is
Right.
where we live on our phones. And that first line, whether it's a few words or even just a random emoji, has got to make them pause and stop and look at it and at least compel them to click and open. Um, but beyond that, Mark, I'm not a real big fan of clicks and metrics and probably another contentious topic with marketers, especially open rates. I think that's crock. It's like it'd be like going to a football game and say, look at the stats of the Raiders. Look at all those interceptions and this and that. Yeah, but they
Yeah,
lost.
yeah.
But they
Well,
lost.
it's really easy to get caught up in likes and follows and all that. But what really matters is, are you actually reaching? Are you actually making a difference in someone's life? When you're looking at the subject lines, again, it's just to look a little bit deeper. Um, Obviously, I think we should be using keywords, using common, what's happening today type of topics. What about like asking questions? You think it's a good idea to ask a question like, would this help make your life better? What do you think about questions in the subject lines?
I think those are all relevant. The questions, keywords, hot button topics, things like that. It's also got to. Now I'm speaking from somebody who works for other clients, so
Mhm.
it's got to be what they might say to their people. You know what I mean? It's got to have relevance. All those things matter. And for me personally, I might take it a little further, push the envelope. So if somebody's listening to this and they serve email marketing clients, just be cognizant of the type of message they want to portray. Don't go too hard and heavy if they don't like hard and heavy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's a writer I love, Ben Settle. Ben Settle goes hard and heavy all the time. And if you don't know who he is and you don't see his email, you're unsubscribing. But if you know who he is and you subscribed, that's what you want to read. So
Yeah.
all of those things, Mark, it all matters within the context of the audience, how you're serving them, and what you're trying to say in the body of that message.
So one of the challenges I have, because this is really important, you can't please everyone. You need to figure out who your audience is so you can really please them. But one of the challenges that I have in my business is I'm talking to different people, right? The podcast, some people are really into marketing, some are into video, some are into podcasting, some are into growing their Instagram. So that's tough, right? Because not every email is going to be catered to that exact person. So what would you say to someone who has multiple different types of people in their list? How can we try to serve? Because this is the problem. If you try to serve everyone, you end up serving no one. How can we actually reach these people when we have a wider net?
That's another good question. You know what really intrigued me about your podcast? The title, "The After Hours Entrepreneur." I'm looking at my
Mm.
notes. It's a powerful one line because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially since the pandemic, they've become a 5 to 9 entrepreneur.
Right.
Some of them no longer have a 9 to 5, and so they become entrepreneurs by default. But the after hours entrepreneur, to me, it speaks to every single demographic you just stated: the videographer, the writer, the one who's launching a popsicle line, whatever it is. I'm making masks now. Likely, maybe, perhaps they had never decided or thought of being an entrepreneur, and now maybe a little
They're kind of
impossible
priced
for them.
into it.
Yeah, they're pushed into a price, whatever it is, and maybe they're wondering, "Am I really an entrepreneur?" And your title alone, it's like it speaks to a huge demographic. So the title alone of and I'm just saying this not because you asked, and not that you're even asking me, but it's intriguing. It doesn't
Mm.
say the after hours writer. It doesn't say the after hours copywriter. It says the after hours entrepreneur, and I was like, I dig it. It has a very broad appeal and can actually be applied with the right verbiage to anybody
Right.
who's trying to not survive but thrive through this new normal, if you will. It
That's
speaks.
exactly it. Well, and the other hard thing is as an after hours entrepreneur, you have to kind of be a jack of all trades, right? Like if you're a podcaster, you're not just recording a podcast. You need to learn how to build your email list. You need to learn how to promote it on Instagram, right? You need to learn how to actually put it on YouTube and get eyeballs there. So again, it's challenging because reaching a wide net, a large audience has greater growth potential, I think, as a whole, but it's harder, I think, to get it off the bat. But one of the nice things I find, and I use ConvertKit for my email list building and broadcast, is that you can actually segment, right? So if someone, for example, clicks a link on how to build your podcast, for example, well, then they go into a certain segmentation so that you can reach out to that person on a more individual basis and say, hey, podcaster, I've got a new course here, got a new PDF, I've got a new video. So that's another way that I'm working that out. So that's kind of a cool thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are talking to the Rick Martinez from the rickmartinez.com. He is going to take you from zero to here. He's going to make sure that your email list converts. We talked about a ton of different ways to build your email list today. I think by far the most important, though, is speaking that language, finding that pain point. That is a game breaker. I think that is a game breaker, and something I need to really, I think, get down and really focus on. But before I let you go here, Rick, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions. So I want you to strap in, buckle your seatbelt, and get ready because we are going for liftoff here. You ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll.
Cool. So I'm going to start off with an easy one. What is a must-have business-related item that costs less than $50?
Less than $50. Internet access, or the ability to access the internet, and you can get that
Ooh.
from some whatever, like a little internet cafe somewhere. Gotta have it.
Oh, yeah, I like that. If you don't have the internet, you are, I don't know what you're going to do. You're selling fruits, fruit from a fruit stand on the side of the road. That ain't scalable, ladies and gentlemen. Ain't scalable. All right, cool. Rick, what is a must-have subscription in your life right now?
Right now, the must-have, I would say it's going to sound crazy, but I subscribe to a marketing newsletter. It's a month-to-month newsletter that I get mailed in the mail. Actually, it's mailed to my home in the States, and it
Hmm.
gets scanned to me. But a newsletter. It's an email marketing newsletter from a company that I really like, and every month I pay for it.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to release your key tip there,
Yeah,
or
no, it's on bensettle.com. He's
Ben Settle? Yeah,
yep, bensettle.com, and that's his only product. That's it. Newsletter.
cool.
That's it.
I love that. Very good, very good. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, Rick, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself what you just told me before we started this rapid fire, but I would add one word. I would say, buckle the fuck up. Um, in the last 10 years, we built and sold an 8-figure business. And as a nurse making $12 an hour on food stamps 20 years ago, I would never have imagined it. So 10 years ago, I would said, buckle the F up. So, yeah.
Love that. Love that. Thank you. That's really what being after hours entrepreneur is all about, because it is a wild freaking ride, brother. It is a wild ride. If you were to wake up in the morning, Rick, and there was only one business task you could do for the day, what would you do?
Write an email. I'd write an email. I would. I'd make what you just said the story of that day.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And it's suiting. It's suiting your superpower. Lean into it. Love that. Last question here for you. If you had a billboard message that could reach millions and millions of people, what would you put on your billboard, Rick?
I'm gonna snag this from it's a Gary V thing that just stuck with me. You're gonna die.
Ooh.
We're all slated for the same fate. It's not dark, it's truth. So get up. What those words say to me is make every moment worth it. Every moment. Every single moment. It doesn't mean hustle yourself to death. It just means make it all matter. That's what it would say. Underneath it would say that nurse who writes a lot.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, we have been speaking with therickmartinez.com. Go check it out. He's the nurse who writes a lot. He's going to help you really explode your email list. Rick, thank you so much.
Mark, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.